Jason, have you been on your bank's apps lately?
No, I have a feeling I know where this is headed.
So once upon a time, they came out with something on Capital One. They called it Eno, and it was like this little chatbot thing. And it you could ask it questions about your account, and it could not answer most of them and kick you out to a human.
Oh, okay. Well, Eno still exists, but okay. All right, fine.
I don't know. I asked it a few questions, and it didn't.
I will
didn't help
take
me.
that description of it. I'm not sure it was that bad, and I know some people that worked on it, so I don't want to discredit it that much.
Well, the specific thing I was asking for was a credit limit increase or something, and it was something that the bot could not do, which is fair. I acknowledge that is fair. But the only interaction I ever had with it, it kicked me out to a web form where I had to go talk to a person or something. So it didn't answer my questions, but I wasn't asking what's my balance, because I know how to check that other ways.
Do you know why the Capital One chatbot was named Eno?
No, why don't you tell me?
Because it's one backwards.
Oh, hey, look at that.
It's also genderless.
Oh, also, that's clever. Yes. So I was noticing, the reason I asked is that I noticed that there have been a little bit of a proliferation of chatbots from banks that have names that are based on the names of the companies. So I was in a Bank of America app, and the thing was "Hi, I'm Erica. Nice to meet you." And I was like, Eric. Oh my gosh, I see what they did there.
I'm looking at this list you have now, and I used to think Eno was a terrible idea. I thought I hated the name. It was awful. I wanted to name it Taylor. Talk about genderless.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
But I just Erica's pretty bad, but the next one.
Yeah, so then I'm on, checking my mortgage or whatever, and the app is like, "Hey, meet Fargo, our new app or new AI assistant or whatever." And of course,
I have to assume that's for Wells Fargo.
Wells Fargo, yes.
So God, that one's actually pretty clever, and I like that one.
It's not terrible, I know. And so we've got Fargo.
Erica's pretty terrible. I hate that. That's how lazy. But Fargo, come on, that's pretty clever.
Yeah, it was pretty. I got to give it to him a little bit.
Eno sounds like a robot, Eno, ENO. I don't know. That's robot-y kind of AI chat assistant. I mean, it fits. Erica's just lazy, I think.
Yeah, it took me a second to be like, why did they call it Erica? Of all the names they could have picked, and then I was like, wait a minute, this is Bank of America. And I was, blech. I did not try these.
What do you think JP Morgan Chase calls their chatbot?
I wonder. Actually, I was thinking, I don't know if they would call it Chase because their apps are called Chase and the cards are called Chase and all of that stuff. So I don't know if they would do that, or if they would call Morgan, right? Morgan is a genderless.
Why not
name.
Morgan? Morgan's genderless. Yeah, exactly.
They could just call it Jay.
I think, actually, it's not a bank, but didn't Progressive Insurance end up calling their AI chatbot Flo? And I thought that was clever.
I'm sure they did because Flo was their mascot, spokesperson, whatever.
The
forever.
girl. That's the person on the commercial. I thought that was pretty clever. And oh my gosh, State Farm should call their chatbot Jake from State Farm.
Oh no. And of course, everyone would ask it what it's wearing.
Yeah, of course. That's pretty good. Welcome to Pride and Accomplishment. My name is Jason.
And I'm Chris. This is episode 104.
I think we should just dive right in. We had a very long last episode, and it was good. I mean, we covered a lot. I remember editing it and just being like, oh my gosh, there's so much here. And we have more. So I think we should just dive right in. I know we promised that we were going to talk about Starfield, but Chris, if you'll allow me, I would like to start with the Ubisoft forward because I think that's going to be a much shorter topic.
Sure. Let's go ahead and start off with Ubisoft.
I assume you didn't watch this. It was during the workday. I kind of took time out of my workday to do it. I assume you didn't get to see this.
No, I'm sorry. I actually had to work during the workday.
You don't block a meeting off on your calendar to watch video game showcases?
I sometimes do, and I usually do it for the Apple events, but not usually for the video game stuff. But this happened in the afternoon, and afternoons are really busy for me. And I try not to like make up a bunch of work time in the evenings like you do. So I didn't watch this one.
That's fair. I do just continue to work into the evening. Anyway, so I blocked off some time here. I was really not interested in a whole lot of stuff that Ubisoft had to kind of show. They did a ton of stuff at the beginning. I don't know if you remember, but they have a racing game that they somehow try to compete with called The Crew. They had stuff about The Crew. They had stuff about their other properties, Tom Clancy, Division mobile game. None of it mattered to me. At the end, the last 40 minutes, if you're going to go watch a recap of the Ubisoft Forward, just go watch the last 40 minutes, because the second to last 20 minutes was Assassin's Creed Mirage, and the last 20 minutes was Star Wars Outlaws. It's the only 40 minutes that matter in that entire thing.
Nice.
I just, real quick about Assassin's Creed Mirage. We saw a trailer previously. It is exactly what we expected, right in line with kind of everything that I want from an Assassin's Creed game. We got to see more gameplay. We got to see a little bit more story. We got to see what was going on. I was not super enthralled with the story, like the premise that they tried to sell. I'm not even remembering really what it was, and I think that's telling. But they tried to set it up and all of that. Where you think back to Assassin's Creed Odyssey, right? And what happened there? They're brother and sister, and now they're enemies, and blah blah blah, and they're trying to fight for some cult thing taking over the world, right? You get the basics of it, right? But in Assassin's Creed Mirage, they present this like story that I just really wasn't gripped by. But I'm hoping that it's just that it's just not flushed out, and I want to see the rest of the game. I am very excited for it still. I think you had mentioned if this gets back to its roots as a like Assassin's Creed game, is this on your buy list? Is it on your wait and see list? Where is it for you?
I would say this is firmly in my like wait and see category, because I have over the years tried to get into various iterations of Assassin's Creed. I mean, going all the way back to something on the PS3, like Assassin's Creed 2 or 3 or something like that. Back when they were kind of that classic return to form style. And I never really got into it. Like, it was a little too much stealth, a little too much sneaking. I like more of the adventure and kind of being able to kind of fight your way through something if you have to. And I didn't feel that back then. And then I tried to play Valhalla. We've talked about that a few times. I still haven't gone back to it really. I have Odyssey and Origins like bought on the PlayStation because they were on a super sale at some point. But I have basically never played them. So I don't know. This one is not, it's not really on my watch list, I would say.
Okay. I'd encourage you to play Odyssey first, right? If you already have it, I think it's generally, I think it's way better than Valhalla. But I think if you liked Odyssey after you played it, Mirage to me seems like the regular next step, kind of skipping Valhalla altogether. That's what I got from the preview, and I was happy with that. The other game, the last 20 minutes of this showcase, was really the only reason I watched, because we knew we were going to get more Star Wars Outlaws during the Ubisoft Forward event. And last episode, we had learned about the game. It was announced, and we kind of got a really short, like cinematic, almost trailer, no real gameplay. And I think I said the words, if this is just an Assassin's Creed Star Wars game, I'll be very happy. And they started to show it. They started to talk about all the world building and, Star Wars is such a rich lore and we have so much to work with. And I said, I don't care. Show me the gameplay. And they eventually got into it, and they showed honestly, probably about 10 minutes of gameplay. It was like a single kind of like, I don't know if it was a mission or a story beat or whatever. But oh man, it is exactly what I thought it was going to be. It is exactly what I wanted. It is in your mind. Imagine, kind of like a rogue outlaw, like scruffy looking nerf herder kind of person, doing jobs on the side to get by in a third-person Assassin's Creed style gameplay, but with laser guns and technology. And instead of a horse, you got a speeder bike. and you drive from, little places out in the desert that are like, mechanic shops or whatever. And you pull into the big city, and that's where all your missions are and your people and your contacts. I mean, it is literally Assassin's Creed to a T, but in Star Wars. And I was so happy with that.
So it sounds like I should just not play Assassin's Creed Mirage and wait for this Star Wars thing.
I mean, I'm not saying that's what you should do, but if that's what you do, I don't think you'd be disappointed.
Okay, well, I will say, after saying I'm not going to wishlist this, Assassin's Creed game, I would put a strong watch, I would say, on this Star Wars Outlaws game. I'm very intrigued. I will go back and watch those last 10 minutes of the Ubisoft presentation just to get a feel for it. But from your description, I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, it's just, I heard some other people talk about it, and I just don't understand why Star Wars has never done this. Like, why has there never? It is prime lore, world building territory to build a game like this. And I just don't feel like it's ever been done, right? You talk about like Knights of the Old Republic or Jedi Academy, and none of them have really truly been an open world, choose what you do next kind of adventure. Like they have always been a little bit on rails. I think Knights of the Old Republic is a little bit off. Like, KOTOR 1 and 2 is a little bit more open world, but even still, it's a very centered story. And I still think this is going to be a pretty centered story, but there's just so, you can do exactly what you do in an Assassin's Creed game where you say, I'm going to ignore the main story for 50 hours and just do all of the other stuff. And you couldn't really do that in Knights of the Republic. So that's why I consider this even a little further. I'm so happy that they finally decided to do something with it. I'm also really excited that I don't, maybe someone could correct me here, but I do know that LucasArts kind of severed their exclusive contract with EA. And I don't know if this is the first game that's not EA, that's LucasArts, but it's certainly the first big one that I remember. Everything else has been EA, right? Jedi Survivor, Jedi Fallen Order, Battlefront, the Starfighter one, Squadrons,
Force Unleashed.
They've all been EA. So I think this is the first non-EA big game, and so far it is exactly what I was hoping for.
Yeah, it does seem like such a kind of obvious thing to do, right? Do some kind of role play in the Star Wars universe and like give you the keys to the kingdom, so to speak. It is exciting. It's a very interesting concept, and I am looking forward to at least checking out some reviews, probably playing it, although I've said that about the last like 3 Star Wars games and haven't bought any of them, so maybe don't take my word for that.
I think last episode you also, kind of drew a parallel here to Andor, about it being a little gritty, and the other thing that it really stuck out to me is like, during this preview, there were no famous Star Wars characters, right? It was Outlaws. It was in a place that you generally haven't visited before on I don't remember what planet it was on. But it wasn't celebrity Star Wars, right? It wasn't the Battlefront where Darth Vader and, I don't know, Kylo Ren are on the same battlefield. It wasn't anything like that, right? It wasn't any of that. It was an entirely kind of separate ancillary story, a lot like Andor, I assume is, that is in the world that is, still Star Wars through and through, but separate. And I want more of that. I love that. I'm really excited for that separate story. I could probably keep talking about this forever. But it comes out in 2024, and I don't know that we're going to know anything else until probably at least the beginning of 2024.
Yeah, I think this maybe falls into it probably doesn't, but I used to always think that things that were announced at E3 with the next year's date were like pretty much a February, March kind of a thing. But with the way that games have been getting delayed these days, I really don't know if that really is true, or if it will be more of a, it still could be a holiday 24 kind of thing that they just happen to announce this year. But we'll definitely keep an eye on it and look forward to any news that we can get. All right, is it time?
I think so. I think so. I mean, okay, so I have a lot to say, but I don't know that I have It's still a lot of speculation about Starfield, right? Like we can't review it. We can't, we really in the end don't know. But I want to start. Maybe we'll start and finish with kind of this question. The last time we talked about Starfield, you had kind of been really overwhelmed and said, "This is a lot. This is too much." And I felt like you were pretty on the fence about Starfield. Maybe don't answer the question, but going into that, has your opinion changed?
I think my opinion has changed a little bit, but I think the feeling of being overwhelmed is probably not very well moved. Like I think it's still there. I'm still pretty overwhelmed by all the things they showed. The big 45-minute long Starfield Direct that they did was a lot of content.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. I mean, we wrote down a lot of quotes during the Starfield Direct, and I think one of the first ones they said was, "It's our," Bethesda is saying, "It's our biggest game we've ever built." And sure, fine, whatever. That can mean a lot of things. I don't know how they quantify it. I bet in playable space it's probably true and all that, but it is the biggest in terms of like actual like distance or things like walking distance, right? That's a lot of people like to measure how fast can you walk from one end of the map to the other. Now with PlanetSide it's a little hard, but it is most certainly probably the biggest game they've built. But if you layer in all of the systems they talked about during this Direct, it just kept going.
Oh yeah, no, they had so many different like systems, and you can build this thing and you can mine this thing, and it's like part survival crafting and part like RPG and part, I don't know, adventure game and all sorts of different content, and just lots of it that they covered like every genre, everything, I think, just about in this game.
Yeah, that's interesting you said that. I had never kind of thought about classifying it like that, but maybe you can help me here. Have other Bethesda games, maybe other than Fallout 76, have they had a survival crafting element of it where you're like finding resources and building both ships and a base?
No, not at all. 76 was the first time that they had base building in Fallout. Previously, you just kind of go between like pre-built worlds. It was always about, resource scarcity, and, you got to find the health packs or whatever and ration your ammo because it's hard to find more ammo, and, those kinds of difficulty things where they just make things scarce, and that makes it hard. And so that's like survival, I guess. But there wasn't like a whole crafting, like a crafting tree, or there was nothing to do with resources, no base building, no vehicle building. Like it was all just like you find cool guns or whatever, you find cool armor, and you keep going about the RPG story that you're playing.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't think so. And that is almost a core tenet of this game, right? The base building, like setting up outposts. They did, maybe we'll start talking about these things in order, but they went through every one of these systems, and to me, looking at it, I was like, okay, that's really cool. It's a little overwhelming, but that's really cool. And I didn't think you basically confirmed they're not in previous Bethesda games. That makes me a little nervous about it, but let's maybe dig into each one and we can talk about why it makes me a little nervous.
Sure. We're already on the topic, sort of. Do you want to talk about base building, or did you have an order that you wanted to go through?
I guess we could start here. I don't remember the order that they discussed it in. Maybe base building was first. I don't remember. But they talked about this outpost base building kind of mechanic, putting bases together, putting different kind of modules together, putting items within those modules, upgrading those modules, leaving crew members to man those modules. Like, I mean, it's an entire system on its own. I mean, it reminds me a lot of I don't think you ever got this far, but No Man's Sky has a lot of this as well, where you build a base and then you hire essentially people to run that base for you. And it reminded me a lot of that. I guess I didn't realize how central base building was to this game. I mean, I guess I kind of knew it was happening, but they talked about it like you would set up outposts in multiple locations. and that would be kind of a like core tenet of the game.
They showed it and they talked about it as if it was like you set up like an outpost that would do resource gathering for you, and then you could get those resources and use them for I don't know what exactly, but that would be something that was kind of important and that you would want to do it. And I will say that reminded me a lot of a certain other space themed game that we don't talk about, that being EVE Online, where they have
I didn't get that, but okay.
Planetary interaction stuff where you like survey a planet and you decide where to build your base, and then there's resources there and you have to mine them, and then you go pick them up from the planet to use them for crafting ships or things or whatever. Like that's how it works in EVE. I don't know if that's exactly how it works here, but I was getting some kind of EVE planetary interaction vibes when they were talking about this in the Starfield showcase.
I got a lot of you're going to hate this. I got a lot of Star Wars Galaxy vibes from it.
Well, okay. I don't know anything about Star Wars Galaxy.
There is like, so. House building, but then there was also like surveying the planet and building, harvesters on a location that had good resource quantity and quality. There was a lot of that. I mean, that's an MMO, so it's a little different, but that's when I saw the harvester going in the in the trailer or whatever of the outpost building, I was like, oh my God, that looks like a Star Wars Galaxy's harvester. And that's what I thought of. I didn't think of EVE, but I could see how you got there.
In any case, I was pretty impressed by the building interface that they showed in terms of building the habitats and stuff. They had kind of a top-down like God mode view that you could just place stuff, like a plan view of the planets and the habs that you're building, which was really nice in my opinion, like because usually like if you played a game like Satisfactory where it's like, oh yeah, this is a really cool like first or third person, like you walk around on the planet and build stuff game, it's like, yeah, but like sometimes you just want to get that top down view and like know where you're placing things in relation to other things, and Satisfactory doesn't let you do that. But this had a way you could just like pop into like drone mode or whatever, and you could just place things and build, which I think is going to serve them very well.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying about Satisfactory, right? It was one of my frustrations with it, and I think just getting into that Factorio or top-down city builder or whatever it is, right? It's just a different view, and I think it makes the experience a lot better to do the work in that kind of mode. It would make it more enjoyable for me, right? It takes it from a third-person kind of place things where you can see to a truly planning and organizing kind of game or mode, and that's important. I think that shifts, and they also said that you could do it both ways, which I really appreciated. Right? There was, and you said it just a second ago, and it fits into this. Everything that they kind of showed from a base building perspective, and then further into combat and things like that, everything is either first person or third person. Right? Just from the get-go, right? First person or third person is a choice throughout the entire game. And then added on top of that, like you said, there's this god or drone or whatever overlook mode. But it sounded like you could do this base building in first or third or in this drone mode. And I really appreciate that flexibility. I think that I'm hoping it doesn't lead to problems, right? Because whatever. But that flexibility, I think, is going to be a super nice quality of life thing, as well as a pretty immersive kind of thing for me.
The real question will be is if the base building is worth doing, like if they do tie it into enough other systems that it feels worth doing, but not is so tedious that it turns into SimCity and then you don't get to play the rest of the space game. I don't know. I hope they strike a good balance there.
I agree. I think that's going to be a tough thing. I mean, they probably, I hope they did well with it, but that's going to be tough, right? Do you have to build like, is it valuable to build an outpost on every planet that you visit? Like, and if so, it's going to get really tough for someone like me and you that's a little bit of a completionist to say, well, I can't just leave these resources here.
I need them.
I need them. In terms, I think a natural kind of progression in terms of topics is like, you've got these outposts, you've got all these places you can go. They didn't really touch on, is everywhere to go valuable? I think that was a lot of that was kind of the core of what a lot of people were asking. They talked about thousands of planets in a previous, kind of demo or overview or whatever. I don't think they touched on it at all, right? They touched on like procedural generation a little bit. Everywhere you go is going to be different. The places you go that you visit is not going to be the same as your friends, right? Because it's procedurally generated, so it won't be the same. But they really didn't touch on like whether it will be valuable to go everywhere. But at the same time, they had a really cool quote that was on the other side of this, right? That said you can go anywhere, right? The quote I wrote down and the one that really kind of stuck with me was, if you're on a planet here and you look up into the sky and you see a moon, that moon isn't just a backdrop, is what they said, right? The quote is, that moon's not just a backdrop. You can actually go to that moon and land on it and survey it for materials, or there might be an outpost or something. And that's kind of cool. I think that's really cool. But the question then comes up, okay, well, I can see 4 moons in the sky right now. Is it really worth traveling to all of them? Like, is that truly content, or is it just a place to land?
Right. It's kind of a content versus filler discussion. And I don't know, but I was actually kind of heartened when they were talking about some of the story things, and they were talking about some of the planets and things. And they said that they had designed certain experiences on certain planets or certain kinds of planets. I don't know. I think it was certain planets. So I was kind of encouraged that like they weren't just throwing you to the procedural generated wolves and saying, here you go, like this is all you get. Just gather resources and then go do our main story on our one main planet that we spent all of our design effort on. It was like, oh no, we have these kind of crafted story beats, and I don't know if those are on particular named planets so that you can like have a consistent thing where you say like, oh, go to Orion or whatever, and then that is your, that's where the work is. But I kind of got the feeling that they had more so like done a treatment on like story beats that they wanted to have on certain actual planets. And like procedural generated doesn't mean everybody's game is randomly procedurally generated. It could just mean that the game comes with one kind of baked in procedurally generated universe that everybody kind of experiences. It doesn't have to be different from yours and your friends.
They did mention that it was, though.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
No, yeah, they straight up said the planets that you and your friends will see may be different.
I don't think I like that.
I don't think I like that either.
We are like, the games with other people. So like if we can't have kind of a frame of reference to like have a shared conversation about, I think that will drastically diminish the value of this single player game.
I agree and disagree. I think there are probably some baked in experiences that we'll be able to discuss, but it's, if you compare it to say your experiences with The Legend of Zelda, right? The Tears of the Kingdom, that the experiences you're having where you're saying, oh, where's this? How do you do this? How do I get there? What, have you experienced this? I don't know that those same conversations will happen, because I'm not sure that everyone will kind of explore this world in the same way, because it won't be the same world.
Yeah, I guess like maybe it'll be kind of one of these things where like, oh, did you get the laser gun? And you'd be like, no, I haven't found the laser gun yet. And be like, oh, okay, well, there's a laser gun. Be on the lookout for it. Like that isn't as fun as like, oh, I mean, maybe it is. But if you don't know, like if you're just like, oh, well, my laser gun spawned on the planet that's 1,000 light years away and yours was on the planet next to the starting planet, like that's not fun. Like it can make things a little bit uneven. But that's why Bethesda gets paid the big bucks to make this game, and I don't. So I guess they'll figure it out.
Yeah, they got to figure out the hard problems.
One of the things that excited me the most about this game was when they were talking about kind of their aesthetics. They're like, oh, we want to take, the early... they said we want to evoke the romance of early space exploration with our kind of visual language and design, and want to make it very functional, but also make it a little futuristic. And they said they called their like design aesthetic NASA punk, which I am all over and very excited about.
Yeah, I didn't cling to it like you did at first, but as they kind of said that, and then I kept watching, the trailers and the in-game footage, I really like it. I think it reminds me a lot of The Expanse, and like it's very kind of practical, but not like over the top sci-fi. but very clearly like space exploration, but not like everyone can travel wherever they want instantly. I mean, I don't know. It seemed very balanced, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I have a very strong affinity, I would say, for kind of early NASA space stuff, like the Right Stuff, the series that was on Disney Plus, or For All Mankind, which is on Apple TV Plus. I'm a big fan of For All Mankind. It's an alternate history space show. If you haven't seen it, it's very good. So this is like one of the things. It's like, this might convince me to play this game because it looks really good. So I will probably play it, a little bit at least, just to have a spaceship that I can like look around and see what they've done with the world building in that kind of universe and aesthetic.
Excellent segue, Chris. Let's talk about spaceships.
Oh, yes, spaceships.
So
are they spaceships or space boats?
Oh, gosh. Episode 3, if you want to learn the difference. So spaceships, spaceship building, spaceship crafting, spaceship customization is as in-depth or more in-depth than the entire conversation that we just had around base building and outpost building. And that is very concerning to me.
Oh, yeah, it's terrifying.
However, I am just grasping at the fact that they said that there are base kind of configurations available to purchase. And I think I will be a very light user of the spaceship customization abilities and pieces of the puzzle. I think I will rely very heavily on the pre-built kind of configurations available, and I may change one or two things or whatever, but that's how I see myself using that entire system. The ability to build a spaceship from scratch, like, listen, I'm not playing Space Engineers here, and I was bad at designing and building spaceships in Space Engineers. I don't want that responsibility in this game. I'm not ready for that, and I don't think I want that. However, having a base configuration that you can then tweak a little bit, that is interesting to me.
I'm the same way about ships. Like, I do not enjoy kind of the composition of ships generally. Like, I'm not very good at it in Space Engineers, but I think some of that is also a little bit about like the particular way that you build things in Space Engineers, because you have to build it by blocks and stuff, and that's kind of a little clunky, and you do it from the first person. Again, see previous conversation. But they showed like a ship editor that like you could like really put stuff together and like mirror it across the ship axis and stuff like that. It seemed a little bit more like kind of like Kerbal Space Program, if you've seen that one, than something like a Space Engineers. So I had some hope for that if it's purpose built for doing ship building in kind of a non-physical environment where I can kind of flip around the ship and like the building part is not part of the challenge, I may have better success with that. Although I'm not really one to sit and customize for hours and hours in a ship builder or anything like that.
I did like what they had to say about like the things within your ship, the modules and whatnot. Oh, you need a crew module, and you need a medical bay, and you need this, and you need this. That was nice to kind of see like the things that you have within your ship, what you've upgraded, what you've spent your money on, what's available to you is kind of at your disposal, kind of part of the story, I bet, kind of, gives you options there. I was into that. I think I can see myself being someone that invests a lot of resources and money into my ship, right? Whether that just means buying the next best configuration or adding a couple modules or I think I'm going to like that element of it, right? The trade-off between, do I need this? Does it make my ship too big? Those kinds of things I really kind of latched onto from a decision standpoint. And I'm looking forward to how does that all play together, right? How does that play into the crew that you can hire, the missions that you can get, the how easy or hard missions are for that kind of stuff. A lot of that, that reminded me a lot of Mass Effect, right? Like how much money and time and effort you put into your ship and your resources and all of that to make either the story easier or the story, different endings, or how does that play into the overall arc of everything? That kind of got me, because I tend to be someone that invests a lot into things like my ship, and that leads me to endings that I'm usually pretty happy with.
I will absolutely put a bunch of like resources into a ship if that's what it takes to kind of, I'll min-max that part of it if it doesn't take a lot of design work. Like if it's just like, hey, upgrade these modules, just like click this button to spend some resources and upgrade the thing. I'll do that a bunch, but I will not like agonize over like, oh, I got to reconfigure the hab module can't be next to the med bay or whatever the rules are. Like I won't get into that part of it. So I'm hoping that it's more the former than the latter. Yeah,
I like how you said it, right? Really a min-max that doesn't require design. And I really like that. I think that would draw me into the ship part of it a lot more. And I mean, based on what I heard, I suspect that that's part of it, at least a little bit. So I'm hoping for that. I said during this presentation, I just said it a moment ago, but I'm pretty sure I said the words, so Mass Effect, like 8 times.
Yeah, you did. Which I didn't really get because I still haven't played Mass Effect. I'm sorry. Don't hate me.
That's okay. I think what I was really driving at, I said so Mass Effect, and that's not fair because Mass Effect has borrowed a lot of stuff from other space stories and space games and space lore. But you could see, I really appreciated this. You could see the influence of other space stories on Starfield. And I think that, at least from what I've seen, they're doing a very nice job of combining really the best parts of the story and the best elements of the world building from Expanse, from Mass Effect, from Star Wars, from, some book series. I wrote down Red Rising, if you've read that book series. They all have elements of story and world building and design and, how ships work and, everything, right? They all have different kind of takes on all of that. And everything I saw, you could kind of see the influence. You could kind of see where they were coming from. But I think they're doing a very good job of taking that and building upon it. And I was actually really, really excited to see a lot of that. I think, they talked about romance and romancing people in the story and all that. And I was like, okay, so Mass Effect. And, they talked about certain ways that ships work and operate in space. And I was like, oh, okay, so there's some Expanse, right? And really real world physics kind of stuff creeping in there. They talked about like class warfare and terraforming and all of that. And I was like, okay, there's some Red Rising influence. I mean, it was really cool to see and recognize. I mean, again, and they may have done it just because that's space story, right? That's just how it is. But I felt influence from other stories, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary to reinvent the wheel on space stories every time you have a new space game. Like, I'm glad that there is so much variety out there, but like, this is cool if it can take the best parts from all of those, as you were saying. Like, that will be great. I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do with it.
Yeah, and then you won't have to go play Mass Effect because you could just play Starfield. It's all the best parts anyway.
Perfect. Love it.
Chris, there was about 10 minutes of this, maybe about 5 minutes of this presentation that you and I basically ignored.
Oh, yeah. They did go over a very, 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 very in-depth character creator that neither of us was particularly interested in.
So much. So many sliders.
Yes, they said this was their most detailed character creator ever, because that's what I guess every giant AAA game has to say now, because I think Cyberpunk 2077 made the same point. What's
your kind of action plan when you go into a character creator like this, particularly from the cosmetic side, how your character looks?
I think usually it's been a while since I've really done a real character creator in a game that wasn't very perfunctory, but I think I usually try to go for something that looks like kind of sort of like me, but not really. Like, I don't try to make it look like me with the size of the ears or something or whatever. But I just kind of pick generic something that looks like sort of me-ish, but not putting too much effort into it. I usually just hit the random button a few times till it gets to something kind of close, and then I'll tweak it. That's what I've sometimes done. I've been trying recently to branch out a little bit and be a little more creative and try a few more things that are a little different than what I would normally like style myself as a human being in. So I try to break outside the box just a little, but still not very good at it.
I'm extremely bad at role playing. I'm with you. I always, so here's my MO, right? If it has a default, right? And Mass Effect is a great example of this. Commander Shepard in every trailer that he is ever in looks exactly the same. He's Commander Shepard. So when I log in to Mass Effect and create a character, I'm creating Commander Shepard. It's the default. Now, when they showed this character creation, it looks like there were like 20 defaults, right? There are 20 kind of choices that you could start from, and then you can edit to fit from there. So I'm going to have a little bit more trouble, but I'm really bad at role play. So what I'm looking for in games like this, and I think, we talked about this when we talked about first versus third person. I'm looking to experience someone else's story, right? It's not me. I'm not trying to role play as, Starfield guy going to Starfield stuff. I'm watching and experiencing and playing as someone else's story. So with that in mind, I tend to pick, again, just like you, probably the default that is closest looking to me, right? I'm looking for someone short hair, maybe a beard, maybe clean shaven, male, generally kind of normal proportions, nothing too muscular, nothing too skinny. Like, I'm looking for like generic Starfield guy. The part of character creation that really scared me, though, is not the cosmetic side. It's the traits and backgrounds, which are like more into Bethesda territory, right? I think Fallout had you do a little bit of this, maybe. Oh
yeah, Fallout they were very proud of their character kind of skill trait system. They called it special, and they had each one of the different letters of special had a different it was an acronym that stood for strength and resourcefulness. I don't remember what all they were, and I probably got them wrong, but I was intelligence, I think. L was luck. Anyway, so they had all of these different traits, and then they gave you a certain number of points, as your starting points, and you had to kind of assign those to yourself. It was truly like a D&D kind of thing where you had, here, this is your skill point pool, and you have to kind of assign it to your character and see what you're going to be good at. But I don't think it had a lot in the way of those trait things, unless you put a lot of skill points in a particular area, right? And then it would allow you to kind of, do a luck check or do a, charisma check or whatever. So you could try to talk your way out of something or whatever. But it wasn't like this. They showed this thing where it's you have a million choices of traits and things that you can have that give you really random kind of power-ups or powers as a character. Some of them were more intellectual and some of them were more physical. But I don't know. I don't love those kinds of choices and things.
Well, they showed two things, right? They showed the traits, which I think are the skill points and experience that you can earn and unlock. And that was there were tons of them, right? And then they showed the ones that really scare me more are the backgrounds, right? Where you could choose, I'm part of this religion, or I grew up an orphan, or I was part of a military family, or, whatever the background choices are that would unlock different perks and I don't know, perks and penalties that affected your gameplay, right? And I think the one example they used, if you chose a certain religion, there were some pirate zealots in space that would, not attack you because you were a certain religion. Oh man, those just scare me, right? Those just I feel like there's a wrong choice, and it's a lot of commitment to pick one of those for what I assume is 100-hour playthrough. I'm really scared about that.
Right. You don't know, you feel like you have to look up a guide and be well, if I side with the pirates, does that mean that the police are going to chase me for my entire playthrough? Because I don't want that. That's just to be a hassle, right? And if you just pick I like puppies, then you don't have to deal with pirates or police cars. So maybe that's better. But there's no way to know that unless you go look it up, and then you're like, oh, do I have to go find the guide, and I have to wait for people to write the guide, and like, you know, you feel like you're making the wrong choice. You just always feel like you're making the wrong choice.
The one saving grace on this entire topic, though, was that they did mention that there was a way to kind of cancel out or remove these choices during your gameplay. And that helped a little bit, right? If you make the wrong choice, you can kind of remove this. I think I don't remember the example they chose, but like you were famous or something and someone was following you around. And as they're kind of talking through this, they said, and you may have some opportunities to remove the things if the penalties are too great. And they show you aiming at this guy that's following you around, right? Like, oh, you're going to kill your biggest fan. So okay, fine. I get that a little bit. It feels like a lot of commitment. I prefer the most vanilla playthrough, right? I don't want any perks. I don't want any penalties. I just want to play the game. And I don't, that's just the way I am when it comes to kind of decisions and choices like this that affect your entire playthrough, right? Again, I'm only planning on playing this game one time through, right? If it takes 100 hours, it takes 100 hours. I understand that, you know, it's a long game. Hopefully, I mean, I would prefer something closer to like 50 or even less. But, you know, I don't want a choice I made in the first 5 minutes of playing this game to affect me for the next 100 hours. So if there are options to like choose as little or as inconsequential options as possible, those are going to be the one that I'm going to pick. And, you know, I know the people that designed this system hate that I'm saying this right now, but that's just the way I am with these kind of games.
If there's something that's like particularly cool, like if it was like, you know, you get telekinesis, I'd be like, oh, well, that's neat. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Like, as long as it didn't say like, but also, you know, you can't run or something, like, then I would be sad. But as long as there's not like a severe trade-off, like I might pick something that seemed kind of cool. And they didn't really talk about trade-offs. They just talked about like traits and things that, you know, could have unintended side effects, but not like direct, like minute-to-minute gameplay effects. So I don't know. I might branch out a little more than you're saying, but I also do not like the kind of feeling of locked in that you get if you think that you've made a wrong choice early on.
Chris, what does a Bethesda game through and through mean?
Lots of side quests, just all the side quests.
This came up during the presentation, and I asked that exact question. I was like, what does that mean? And this goes into like, I've never really played a Bethesda game before, at least not all the way to the end. Is that really what it means?
So if you imagine like World of Warcraft, right? You have all of these things that you can do, right? When you're doing like a leveling experience, you know, you're going into a zone and you start off in like a place and there's like a main storyline, but like each part of the main storyline takes you to a different like little town or something. And in that little town, there's like 5 people with little exclamation points over their heads, right? And those people are not part of the main storyline, but they are quests that can give you experience. Bethesda games are the same way. They just have all sorts of like random people that are like, help, my village is under attack, or help, you know, the slavers have come and enslaved all of our people, or whatever. And you can kind of choose to go help them. But that can go take you like an hour to go help these people do something.
Oh, okay. All right. I was like, so far this sounds pretty normal.
Yeah. But like that whole thing can turn into like you kind of, the thing with the Bethesda games, right, is that they're all voice acted and it's all like a very deep kind of world that they're trying to make. And like, yeah, you'll find things, and some of the side stories are really good. Like they do a really good job of like either making you make tough moral decisions, or like you go through something and then you find out that the person that you were looking for, like you find a skeleton in a room sitting there, like as if they had died in the chair or whatever. Like, you know, this person, you've been trying to help them get reunited with their family or something. I don't know, whatever. They just do, like in the Fallout games, they do all of these different kind of good storytelling side questy things. But that's what a lot of them are, is like very well thorough side quests. And that's why these games are so long. They're just long.
Okay. All right. I have a feeling that I'll do a couple of them and maybe not all of them. I know people that would do every single one of them. I assume you're not one of those. Maybe you are.
It depends on the game. So when I played Fallout 3, which was on the PS3, when I also had a lot more free time, somehow I got it in my head that I was going to platinum the game, and they had made all of the major like good side quests. They had turned them into trophies on the PlayStation. So I did platinum that game, and I did all of those things. But I think there were even still more things that you could kind of do that weren't trophy things that I maybe didn't do or didn't do as much of or something. But these games are they're very big. Like they're just very well thought out, and they're like nicely intertwined, and like, the decisions, if you help the people from the one place, they know, like the word spreads and the people know about it in the other place, and it's nice, like it's cool, but it is just a lot. I've never played Skyrim, so I don't know if Skyrim is the same way, but I haven't run Skyrim on a refrigerator yet to figure that out.
I have one more question about Bethesda games. Does Bethesda have a track record of games that allow you to continue playing after you've completed the main story? Or is it one of those things that the credits roll and your save file is done?
I don't think your save file is done. It may roll you back to a save file just before the end, like just before the final decision or the final scene or whatever. Like it may, or the final boss. I don't know. But I think it rolls you back like that, but it doesn't like kill your save file, if that's your question.
Well, I mean, yeah, but it's this, the game doesn't end. I mean, the game ends when you do the last story mission. You can always roll back to a previous save before the last story mission, but the world doesn't continue after you've completed that story. Is that? I mean, I know every game's different, but does Bethesda have a track record with that?
Yeah, they do. Their games have an end, like, or at least the Fallout games have an end. I don't know about 76, but there is kind of like a main quest line, and like when you do all the things of that, you're done. Like you have quote unquote beaten the game. In Fallout, I don't know, 3, I think it was, you're trying to like find your parents or something. I don't remember exactly, but you're trying to like find your origin story. And like, once you know that, like there is a little like end scene that's like a, like 2-minute cinematic. And then and then the credits roll. So like there is a way to get credits to roll for these games, if that's your question.
Yeah. I guess I'm wondering more of like when, if you beat Breath of the Wild, right?
Which I did.
You go back. I know. That's why I brought it up. You go back into Hyrule with a completed game. You can still go do more shrines. You can still, do all the side quests, but like the main story quest is done. And, different RPGs tackle this differently. So I was just wondering kind of where this lands. It sounds like, at least in Fallout sense, like when you were done, you were done.
Yeah, I don't remember wanting to kind of go back to it, except that they came out with DLC and you could kind of go back into the world for the DLC. But I don't. It's been so long, I don't actually remember what the kind of like end of the game experience was per se. Zelda, I will say, I've beaten Tears of the Kingdom now also. So check that box. Yeah, I beat that game. Sorry, this is an aside, but I beat Tears of the Kingdom, rolled credits on it. And then you go back into the game, you load up your save file. It's got a little star on it now that shows that you've beaten the game, but everything is like just before they're still waiting on you to go beat the final boss. Cause like narratively, they don't have any like, hey, you did it kind of like world state. But at that point, they also show on the world map, they show you like your percentage complete of like all of the collectibles and all of the shrines and all of the Korok seeds and all of the everything. I'm at 40% and I beat the game.
Ooh. Whoa.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know where I was on Breath of the Wild. I'm probably even further back on Breath of the Wild.
Okay, so Chris, day one Game Pass, Starfield.
Yes.
Are you going to buy the collector's edition?
No, I don't think so.
You get a cool watch, though.
Yeah, you do get a cool watch. But I don't need a cool watch because I have an Apple Watch.
Yeah, literally same argument.
If the Apple Watch didn't exist and I thought that this Starfield watch was going to be cool, then I would consider it. But I don't need another watch, and I can't imagine that this thing is going to be particularly well built. So I'm not like super excited about it.
Okay, different question. Same setup. Day one Game Pass. Do you play it day one?
That is a risk. Bethesda, you asked.
I know, right? It's amazing that it's still a consideration. You're like, day one Game Pass, why would I not play it? But Bethesda on their day one releases just have such a terrible track record.
Yeah, when you were asking, you were leading up to the question about like Bethesda games having an end. I thought you were going to ask about them being buggy, and I was going to be like, oh, they're always buggy on launch. But there's also been a quote from Todd Howard where he said this is going to be the best, least buggy Bethesda game there ever was.
Man, I don't know that I believe him. Maybe least bugs in terms of like percentage of game, but like, is the game just so big that there are so many things to run into that are buggy? I don't have a lot of faith here, and it is amazing to me that even though I will not have to pay a dime for this game, I may not play it upon release.
I will probably get like preload it and download it because it's day one Game Pass and there's no cost to me to do that. And I might launch it and see what happens, but like the first time I run into a bug, I'll just stop.
Yeah. The 130 gigabytes solid state drive required. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that. That's cool.
Yeah. 130 gigabytes solid state drive required.
Wow. Well, good thing I have a 2 terabyte SSD that I just got not too long ago. So I am Starfield ready.
Starfield ready. I'm not. I got to get a new graphics card.
Are you going to go for a 4090?
I don't know. We'll talk about it on another episode.
I will say that watching this like Starfield thing, I was like, wow, some of this stuff looks cool. But if this is good and it's fun and I play it, this is like the last game I'm ever going to play because there's like 900 hours worth of content for this thing.
I don't feel that way. I don't think there is a world in which I play this game for more than 200 hours.
Okay, that's fair, but 200 hours is still a lot of hours.
It's a lot of hours, absolutely. But I think I could blow through 200 hours in a month or two. And
don't do the math on that.
Don't do the math on that. I think that I don't think that's what this game is going to be. I am really, really going to have to force myself to. I think I'm going to treat it a lot like an Assassin's Creed game, right? Like, try to mainline the story, try to keep going on the main story as much as I can. Maybe get distracted here or there, but then like think to myself, I need to return to the main story. And I don't know how long the main story is. I don't know that maybe they have. I don't remember if they've said like how long the actual main story is. But like, I have a feeling that that's how I'm going to keep myself paced. And I very, very rarely return to a game after I have beat the main story. So I think I'm going to mainline the main story. I think it will probably take me, I'll probably add 25% to whatever that means, right? Whatever the main story time is, a couple side quests. And that will probably be my experience with Starfield, which will be enough for me.
I will probably, if I like it, if I'm enjoying it, I will probably do a little more side questing, a few more of the side quests, because they do, Bethesda does do a good job with kind of the world building and like the side quest development stuff. Like that is kind of one of the things they're known for. So their main story, at least in Fallout 3, was like fine, but like the side stories and the things you did to get there were actually more interesting than the main story at the time. I don't know. I haven't really played Skyrim. I didn't play Fallout 4 really, and I didn't play 76, but that's a whole other thing. So I don't know what to think about this one, but I will probably, again, my memory is hazy, but I will probably do a bit more of the side questing.
I can't remember the last time we spent almost an entire episode talking about a single game. So, regardless of what happens with Starfield, I think it has done its job in terms of creating hype and, presenting us with a very detailed topic to talk about. It comes out September 6th, 2023. Am I right about that, Chris?
Yes, September 6th, 23.
September 6th, 2023. I think we will be talking about this game more again, probably as it's coming out or kind of the week it comes out. I don't anticipate too many more kind of previews here on out. I think we're kind of in. I think we're kind of in the home stretch here. I think there may be a lot more marketing and a lot more push behind the game, but in terms of like details, gameplay, I don't think we're going to learn a whole lot more. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's where I'm at. So if you have more to say about Starfield, or if we missed something, I'd be very interested in what people think about what we said about Starfield. it'll be my first kind of real experience with a Bethesda game. Chris has a lot of experience with Fallout. I don't think either of us played Skyrim, so I didn't play any of the other Elder Scrolls. Did you play any other Elder Scrolls?
No, I never played any of those because they were all like Xbox exclusives at the time, and I didn't play them.
Yeah, so if you're a Bethesda veteran, right, fill us in. What are we missing? What am I not thinking about? What did I get wrong? Right. Let us know, talk with us, chat with us. You can join our Discord by going to discord.pnapodcast.com.
If you want to find our older episodes or read our show notes, we don't have a lot of show notes for this one because we really only talked about a couple things, but they're there if you want to see them. You can visit our website at pnapodcast.com. That's P, the letter N, the letter A, podcast.com.
If you're enjoying the show, we would love if you could share it with some others that may enjoy it as well.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll talk to you next time.
The Battle Pass is dead.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sad.
It's like the only reason you play that game.
So to fill everyone in a little bit here, they just today or yesterday posted a blog post on the Dota blog, the Dota 2 blog, that says like, it's been 10 years. We're coming up on the 10-year anniversary of Dota 2, which is kind of crazy in itself. But then they're like, yeah, and so we're going to not do battle passes, which is just insane to me because they're the ones that really popularized battle passes in the first place. And I thought they were doing well, but then they're like, no, we don't want to, base all of our content releases around planning for battle passes, which I'm like, all right, I guess you're trying to make a healthy game, whatever. But like, I really like those battle passes and I spend way too much money on them.
I think the problem with Dota 2 and their battle pass is that they had like one major battle pass a year for 3 months.
True.
And basically the rest of the year was nothing, like a content drought. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's kind of how I felt. I mean, I know that's kind of how you are with playing the game, but I think that has a lot to do with that was their content cycle. And I think I don't think battle passes are bad or wrong. I think Dota 2 had an unhealthy relationship with their international battle pass.
I would say that's fair. They did a thing for a little while where they were doing kind of 2 battle passes per season. When they had the international in the summer, they pushed it into the fall. It's in like October this year, which is so late. But when they had the international in like August, so they could say like, oh yeah, from like mid-May to like August, you get the international battle pass. And then they would say like from, over Christmas or kind of like January to March, you get the other battle pass. Like they were doing something where or maybe they did 3 one year, I think. Like they had an okay cadence, I thought, where they were kind of doing like seasonal events and they were doing like little like battle passy things like that had special game modes and stuff. And I really liked those. And I guess this doesn't say that they're never going to do seasonal events. Like that's not really kind of the point of it. But I'm still sad to kind of lose that, like that feeling of making meta progress outside of the kind of individual MOBA game rounds that you're doing.
Well, what have they said about how they're going to replace? I mean, how do you give them money now?
They have not said what they're going to do with that yet. They are saying like, there will be something and it will still support the prize pool of the international and it'll come out in like September, but we're not going to call it a battle pass, which I don't know if that means it's just still going to be a battle pass. They're just not going to call it that, but they're giving themselves a much, much shorter window of time to have people do that and kind of buy the things and spend the money and run up the total and all that stuff. So I don't know like what's going to happen there. Like, I'm not sure how they're going to make money, but they seem to have a plan. And I don't know if it's going to go back to loot boxes or if it's going to go to some other kind of meta thing. But again, for me, it was the progression, right? It was the levels of the battle pass that were such an interesting kind of thing, even though at the end there, it was getting to the point where like you couldn't even really gain a lot of levels from gameplay. You kind of had to do gameplay to earn like random chances to earn things that would give you levels, basically, because the XP that you would get from like doing individual games was almost nothing. I don't know. It's the end of an era and it's a little bit sad, but on the bright side, it should make my end of year game spending much better.
You don't know that. They could replace it with something way more enticing.
I just don't think they can because I don't play the game enough to care.
Do you personally think this is a bad decision on their part?
I think it's an interesting decision because I look at other, like the Epic games, Fortnite and Rocket League, and I suppose we can put Overwatch in there, but they're not doing well at the moment as far as we can tell. But like other games that are free to play,
they're making plenty of money. Don't get me wrong.
Fine, but like other free to play games are doing this with the battle passes as a way to kind of support their season. I mean, even Sea of Thieves has a battle pass, and like I don't know. I can see where they're like, yeah, this became an all-consuming thing for us. So like for the health of the game and the vibrancy of the game, that's probably good. But for players like me who are like nostalgic for it and also spend too much money to not play that much, it's a loss. But for the health of the game and the people playing the game, it's probably good.
Are you subscribing to the doom and gloom that this is essentially them starting the process of putting Dota 2 into maintenance mode?
I don't think I'm subscribing to that. I think I believe that they're going to keep trying, but if it stops making money for Valve, they will stop doing things with it. But they still have the whole esports scene, although there's been a lot of conversation about esports and kind of the teams are not able to kind of make a living on them. Like League of Legends has had this problem lately, I think. So I don't know what kind of the news in the Dotaverse is, but if that's the case and kind of the pro scene dries up, then I would imagine the game will probably go into more of a maintenance mode and turn into more of like a Counter-Strike or Team Fortress 2 kind of a situation.
We shall see. You know what? We're going to check back in September and see how much you've dropped on their new slot machine money gobbling game mode.
Well, hopefully Starfield's good, so I won't have any time to do that.
There you go.